Coming up next, we're going to be talking to a photographer. Her name is Xyza Bacani, and she's straight out of Hong Kong. She's based there right now. We're going to be talking about a new project that she's been working on, as well as a whole lot of other things that's coming your way next. This is TWiP. Hey folks, welcome back to another This Week in Photo interview. I'm here with Xyza Bacani. She's a photographer who's based in Hong Kong, and she's working on some pretty interesting projects. As you guys know, we've been doing this series with a number of notable photographers for the Fujifilm Visual Momentum project, and Xyza is the latest in that series, and with a really interesting story and an interesting sort of insight on some things that she sort of moved into and transitioned into. So Xyza, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yes, welcome. So you're in Hong Kong right now, right? So yeah, how is it living there? How are you before we start the interview? Is it fun? Is it comfortable? Are you okay there? What's happening?
I'm okay. I'm good and just surviving.
Yeah, absolutely good. All right, well, so I want to dive into this, and like I said, this is part of the Visual Momentum series from Fuji, and the project itself. So We Are Like Air. So tell me about We Are Like Air, and what was the motivation behind it, and how did it come about? And then we'll dive into your history a little bit.
So We Are Like Air is a book that I published last year, or December last year. Oh, it's almost a year. So We Are Like Air is about migration. It focuses on the complexities of migration. So it focuses on 8 different stories. And the main story is about my mother and my family, who is a family of migrants. Mm-hmm. So the narrative focuses on her and how it is connected with different stories around Hong Kong. And it's basically a story about love, sacrifice, and family and mobility.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit, because I know when we did the introduction, you sort of led into the idea that you made this transition from being you, Xyza, into sort of moving into your mom's shoes a little bit. Take me through that a little bit.
So in the book We Are Like Air, I talk about being left behind by my mother when I was 8 years old, and then becoming a migrant domestic worker myself when I was 19. So there's a lot of issues surrounding that situation in our life. And then when I went to Hong Kong and worked as a domestic worker myself, that's when I understand her better. And that's when I picked up a camera to be able to show her how Hong Kong looks like. So basically, I became her eye.
Yeah. And that was your, when I do these interviews on This Week in Photo, one of the questions I generally ask people that I just meet, like you, are how did you get into photography, etc. So rewind back to that point, right? So you are using the camera as a way, not just as okay, I want to take pretty pictures of flowers, but it was a little bit deeper than that, right?
Yes, because my mother's a workaholic, so she works 7 days a week, and her life revolves around her employer and going to the market, cooking for them. And she chose to not to go out and take her holiday because she wants to send more money to our family. And then I decided, why not pick up a camera and show her how Hong Kong looks like. Through my photos, she's like seeing Hong Kong, like she feels like she's going out herself. And so I decided to go out, shoot photograph street photography, just go around Hong Kong, and whenever I come home, I show it to her. So it was a way of like bonding with my mom as well.
That is fantastic, because normally when I talk to photographers, it's even if it's a street photographer, it's not like they're shooting for one individual in particular. They're shooting to build a story, or they're shooting, for some other reasons. You had an audience of one that you were shooting for, right?
Yeah, she's my biggest critique. Until now. Like, I show her every photo that I created, and she's just gonna say, "Oh, I like that photo. I don't like that photo." And then when I asked her why, and she was like, "I just don't like it, or I like it because it looks beautiful to me." So I think she helped me a lot when it comes to like picking my photos. So
That's awesome. And now look at you. Look at where you are. So that's great. So about the We Are Like Air project, and specifically, what are the were there any big challenges that you hit as a photographer / photojournalist in this capacity as you were putting together that body of work?
it's the hardest project I've ever done so
Wow.
far. I mean, I photograph a lot of different stories in different cities, but I empathize with the people I photograph, but it's not me. It's not my loved ones. As co- it's not skin deep. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I think the hardest part of this project is it forced me to be vulnerable, and I think it's kind of hard to show vulnerability, especially when you're dealing with family issues. So it forced me and my family to look at issues that we rarely talk about.
Yeah.
So some wounds were reopened, and then some words that were never spoken were, we talk about it. So it's a lot of tears. It's not the technical part that was hard for me. It was the vulnerability. It kind of like exposed me to this vulnerability that I didn't even know that I have.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you feel like the project has changed you at all as an artist in the way that you approach things?
Yes, I think it made me realize that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's
Hmm.
okay to absorb all this emotion and deal with it rather than just like bury it in your deepest soul.
Yeah.
So I think when an artist is vulnerable, they become more sensitive of the other person that they're photographing. And that helped me a lot with anything that I do nowadays, because
Hmm.
back then I'm photographing people. I have that, I try my best to be sensitive about the issues that they have, but still photography is power, right?
Hmm.
So if I'm photographing them, it means I have the power, and that power can be used to exploit them or empower them. But with this project, because I'm photographing my family, that power was taken away from me.
Hmm.
So yeah, something
Yeah.
deep like that.
Yeah, that is deep. And a lot of photographers express that in different ways. Some photographers will say, and I'm myself included, when you pick up a camera, it sort of acts like a passport into
Mm,
a different world that you may not have had access to without that passport. But it was different for you. Like you said, you were already sort of in that world, but you were now acting as a documentarian. What were the people that you were photographing? How did they react to you? Sort of as being a documentarian photographer, as well as sort of being in that world as well.
I'm very lucky that they're very generous in their time, and they they were really open to me. Maybe because they feel that I'm one of them, and
Hmm.
I understand them, and I will never do harm to them. Because if I do harm to them, it means I'm doing harm to myself. So, so I like that relationship that we have. The fact that they were open enough to tell me about their dreams, their hopes, their heartbreaks, and I'm just grateful for that. Because when you do photography, when you have even though you have that passport, if the people who you want to photograph doesn't want to open the borders, then it's not gonna be a good project. It's same as migration, right?
Yeah.
Everyone can have a passport, but not everyone have the privilege to go in.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in terms of the impact of this project, when you started it, whether was the goal for the project the same as it was at the end, as it was at the beginning, or did it sort of morph along the way?
I think I'm the reason why I did this book is because I was thinking about the impact from the beginning. Like, how will it serve the people I photograph? How will it serve my community? And I'm very lucky because the people that I photograph, it gave them healing the way that it did to my family. Like, they send me messages that, oh, this happens to me, my employer talked to me, my daughter and I had a good talk. It was really cathartic. So that goal was for me. We were able to achieve that goal, and right now I'm just hoping that there will be a bigger impact to this, which is changing a system that allows abuse to migrant domestic workers.
Hmm. Yeah, and are we moving in that direction? Are we making a dent in the abuse cycle?
I think so. I mean, I've been doing this for like 4 years now, so
Yeah,
there are. I've spoken to people who are in a position of power to do something
yeah.
about the migrant issues in Hong Kong, in Japan, at the UN. So I was hoping that my works are actually activating their minds to actually do something about this.
And that's the whole purpose of photography and photojournalism, right? Is to shine a light in corners of life that many people may not know about. And if they don't know about it, they can't act on it, right? So that's the power of the camera, is to inform and present them with an option to do something or not do something. And you're right in the middle of that. So congratulations and thanks for that. That is
Thank
that's
you.
awesome. So okay, we have to switch gears now. This is Xyza. So
Okay.
gear, right? So we talked about the project itself. Now, this week in photo, audiences always love to hear what you're using to shoot these amazing photographs and why you made that choice. So what are you shooting and why did you choose to shoot that particular gear?
So I'm using a Fujifilm GFX 50S and Fujifilm GFX 50R, both medium formats. And I chose those two because it made me fall in love with the files.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so alive that it's so different from any other cameras, you know? So, and then I also love that it's very user friendly. So I'm more focused on storytelling than
Mm-hmm.
just worrying about my gear. And I can drag the cameras to different places, some of them not nice or unsavory, and they still function. And the weather, you know, it also have this protection against extreme weather. So I think it serves me well. That's why I chose to use those two. And with medium formats, I use medium formats to photograph protests or conflict. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested about that because it's interesting. It depends on who you talk to, about it. And obviously the choice of tools that artists use is extremely personal, and it depends on the work, it depends on the artist, depends on the photographer, etc. But I hear a lot of people, more and more people moving up to the larger sensor sizes, like the full frame, medium format Fuji files that you get. Now, I'm curious to ask you though. So a lot of when you have these files, you're, by the nature of your work, you don't really have the necessity to do a whole lot of retouching and that sort of stuff, right? So what is it about those large files, if you can put a pin in it, like what is it about having all of those pixels available to you, do you think enables you to get your vision out better?
I think I do a lot of exhibitions.
Yeah.
So
Printing
because
big. Yeah.
I print big, I do billboards as well. So I don't need to worry about the file size because I
Uh,
know that it can be printed beautifully.
yeah.
So that's the main reason why I use these big sensors. And also, I just don't need to worry that my files will be terrible. It kind of takes away the worry of worrying about technical stuff. I just know that it will be good
Yeah.
because I think, you know, if as a photographer, as an artist, if I'm shooting and I'm worrying about the technical stuff, then it will take away the focus on what I'm supposed to do. So with the medium formats, I use them I use them for mainly because one of the main reasons is because I print a lot of my images.
Yeah.
I do big prints. So
And a lot of photographers are just, they will never, well, for the most part, will never have the need to print a gallery or giant prints, and 99% of their work will be displayed online. To those people that are watching this, and they look at your work and they're thinking, I want to be like her. I want to shoot like Xyza shoots. What should they be moving towards the trajectory of going with a medium format, or is 35 enough? Is micro four thirds enough? Is their cell phone enough? What do you think?
I think with the mirrorless system of the Fujifilm, if you want bigger files because you're printing and you fall in love with the color, then go for the medium format. But if you cannot afford it, just go with the mirrorless, the smaller ones. So Fujifilm is able to give us cameras that serves us well on whatever we need.
Yeah.
So I encourage them to get a Fujifilm camera, whether it's a tiny mirrorless or it's a medium format, depending on what they need. It's a good start if they can get, the entry level Fujifilm cameras, because phone is good. Phone is okay, but then you can never print them. It's just gonna be on your mobile.
Yeah.
It's okay for Instagram, but then after that, what are you gonna do with it?
Right. Yeah. If you get a great shot on the phone and it takes off on Instagram, and Time Magazine calls you and they say, I need that shot. It may work okay, but it may not. So yeah. No, very good.
They'll never know if they want to be printing their images in the future. So better be prepared than sorry.
No, absolutely. Well, this is interesting. So I'm curious. I know your time is limited. So I want to sort of dive into the future of Xyza Bacani. Like what are you working on now, present, and what does the future look like in terms of projects you're working on and places you're traveling to, et cetera?
So I'm working on this new project about climate change and migration, because those two, climate change is one of the biggest risks of the humanity of our time. And I'm trying to put a face on climate change. And wow. I tied it up with migration because I think climate change is one of the biggest drive of migration lately.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you can't live in a place where you can generate an income or, create crops, et cetera, because of climate change, and you have to move someplace where that's possible. And that's what we're seeing. And that's what, according to science, that's what we'll see over the next 10 to 20 years as the climate shift and populations move to places where food is, right?
Yes, so, correct.
Yeah. When you say put a face on climate change, what does that mean? Like you just want to personify it, or what is it? What does putting a face on climate change look like?
I think it's more like putting out stories out there of people who actually suffers from climate change. So I did this project in Indonesia where people are being trafficked because they're not able to farm anymore. It's easier for human traffickers to actually thrive on that situation because they're not able to provide food for their families. Or, for example, palm oil workers who, how palm oil is terrible. And we have these farmers who doesn't get anything from it. They're the ones who produce palm oil, but they suffer from it. So, and I also have this thing where when you tell someone about glaciers and that person have never seen snow, will they relate to the climate change story with no face? Yeah. I think humanizing climate change and making people realize that we're not going to save the planet. We need to save ourselves because the planet has been around for the longest time. Yeah. It's been around longer than us. So we need to change our mindset about it, that if we don't do something, then we're going to suffer. And there are people who are actually suffering now from climate change. And I want to put, the spotlight on these people, maybe to change the narrative a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for doing that. And no, you're absolutely right. When you think about the age of the Earth in astrophysics terms, right? What 4.3 billion years, and we've only been here for a tiny slice of that. And if we go away, the Earth will spin on.
Exactly. I mean, if the dinosaurs became extinct, then so are we. You know,
Right.
like it's gonna happen to us too.
Yeah. In cosmological timescales, it's just a blink of the eye that we've been here, and it'll be another blink for us to go away if we don't, make efforts to stay here. So,
Yes.
yeah, no, I get it. You and me, I get it right there. All right, so Xyza, if people want to connect with you, look at some of your work, maybe interact with you, what's the best place to reach out?
Well, I have a website. It's www.xyzacruzbacani.com. Instagram, it's xyzacruzbacani.com. All my social handles are xyzacruzbacani.com.
Awesome.
Oh, Xyza Cruz Bacani, yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Yep. And I'll have put that on the screen at the bottom, and those links will be in the blog post for this episode as well as the YouTube description. So if people want to reach out to you and you're watching this in either of those places, just look down, you'll see the link. So cool. Xyza, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you, and congratulations on being a Fuji ambassador. Congratulations on these projects that you're working on, and most of all, it's refreshing, and congratulations on the passion that you have for using photography as a tool and your Fuji cameras as a tool to get the word out about these issues. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, it means a lot to me for the space, for the stars to be heard and seen.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Okay, you have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you too.
This is TWiP.